41 degrees right now in New York. For the rest of tonight, should stay that way. We'll see lows in the upper 20s tonight. It is 6:30.
WNYC supporters include Target Margin Theater, presenting Remember This Trick, a tale of a young queen, a magician, and 36 wise folk weaving together stories of Jewish survival. Performances begin February 17th in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Tickets at targetmargin.org.
WNYC, independent journalism in the public interest. 93.9 FM and AM 820. NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Marketplace is supported by JLL, committed to uncovering investment opportunities so clients have smarter solutions to their commercial real estate market challenges. JLL.com. See a brighter way.
On the program today, the news behind the macroeconomic news, some artificial intelligence poison, and then we go to space. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, working to treat previously untreatable cancers through protein degradation, which can target cancer-causing proteins and destroy them. Dana-Farber.org/everywhere.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Rizdal. It is Monday today, the 5th of February. Good as always to have you along, everybody. We will begin this week, I think, where we ended the last. The strength of this economy. It's growing, first of all. Consumers are feeling better, second of all. And the labor market, as we saw on Friday, is still really strong, third of all. Those are the headlines, on jobs especially. But it has been kind of a wild ride in the labor market the past 3-4 years. Nowhere wilder than for the people whose job it is to fill jobs, the temp agency staffers, the recruiters, the headhunters, and the like. Marketplace's Sabri Benishore gets us going.
By the end of 2021, when we were recovering from the initial shock of the pandemic, the U.S. had gained back 7.25 million jobs. Almost 500,000 of those were jobs around getting people jobs.
You see recruiting postings heading into the stratosphere.
Ron Hetrick is vice president of staffing strategy at Lightcast, a labor market analytics firm.
You know, you come up with 21 and 22 where there's a shortage of people. So a lot of companies thought, well, we're going to respond to a shortage of people by throwing more recruiters at the problem.
But after gorging on workers, employers slowed down the hiring last year. And so did the recruiters and the agencies working for them. Nels Olson is vice chairman of talent and consulting firm Korn Ferry.
You looked at high interest rates and inflation. And I think there was some natural, pullback for a bit.
By the end of 2023, the number of people in temporary jobs in the U.S. had fallen by 7% in a year, and employment services companies took a big hit. Tim Sackett is CEO of HRU Technical Resources.
The staffing companies that struggled definitely had more tech clients than those that didn't.
Still, that plus a general hiring slowdown meant 226,000 jobs in employment services disappeared last year.
We move quick when the economy moves, and then we fall quick as the economy drops as well.
Jer Doyle is senior vice president of Manpower Group. He says 2024 will be better.
We do expect overall in our industry stabilization.
As inflation comes down further and interest rates start to fall, companies are going to want to do more hiring.
Second half of 24 is when we should start to see a bit of a rebound.
Doyle says employment in recruiting and staffing services is a little bit of a crystal ball, what economists call a leading indicator. And it's indicating some cautiously good things right now. After declining for 14 months, the number of people whose job it is to help fill jobs increased by 9,000 last month. In New York, I'm Sabri Benishore for Marketplace.
On Wall Street today, I guess traders only pay attention to Jay Powell when he's on 60 Minutes on a Sunday night because he said the exact same thing last Wednesday. It's killing me. We'll have the details when we do the numbers. The higher education news of this Monday comes to us out of Hanover, New Hampshire, where Dartmouth College has announced that starting next year, Applicants will once again have to submit standardized test scores along with their grades and essays and recommendations. Dartmouth, like a lot of schools, had made the SAT and ACT optional in 2020. It's been a tricky couple of years for the companies that administer those tests, so we asked Marketplace's Stephanie Hughes for an update on the testing industrial complex.
Back in 2020, the ACT became really hard to give
because a lot of schools were just closed.
Janet Godwin is the CEO of ACT, the nonprofit that administers the test.
And then where schools were open, there was the social distancing,
which meant you couldn't fit as many high schoolers into a cafeteria to take the test. ACT felt that. Its annual revenue dropped from $302 million in 2019 to $241 million in 2020. But Godwin says it's now bouncing back to pre-pandemic levels. And that's partly because colleges still want to see the scores for things like scholarships or certain programs.
A school may be test optional for general admissions, but still have a score requirement for programs like nursing or engineering.
Also, standardized testing is just kind of in the water in a lot of school districts. And Brookings fellow Catherine Meyer says many still build time into the day for the SAT and ACT and foot the bill for the tests.
So there's still a lot of students taking these exams, and then students are making the decision about which institutions to send them to.
Meyer says the testing industry is also bringing in revenue by selling tools to colleges that will give a student's test score some context.
Where they sort of guide an admissions officer through, this is a student's test score, and here's how you should consider that given the environment they grew up in. You know, this may be a slightly lower SAT score, but it's the best score that anybody from their high school has gotten in the past couple of years.
Meanwhile, going test optional has been hard for institutions, says independent education consultant Justin Cohen.
Like it or not, like a single test score is a much easier thing to put on a form and calibrate than all of these other ephemeral factors, including grade point average and student activities and interviews.
And he says that's why more colleges may be going back to requiring the test scores they know. I'm Stephanie Hughes for Marketplace.
According to the arts database ArtFacts, 85% of visual artists out there make less than $25,000 a year. The term starving artist, of course, exists for a reason. Now, though, there is a new threat to their livelihoods: generative AI. Artificial intelligence companies have been scraping the art they find on the internet and using that art to train their AI models for free. But on the theory that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, there are now some tools available to help those artists fight back. Ben Zhao is a professor of computer science at the University of Chicago. He's also the lead on two of those tools. They're called Glaze and Nightshade. Welcome to the program.
Thanks very much.
As layman-like as you possibly can, these two tools that I mentioned up in the introduction, Glaze and Nightshade, again, very generically, very basically, what do they do? How do they work?
Wow, that's a lot.